So we wrapped up a week-long project and got back to more of a traditional class. And if you missed this class, the topic was about micro and macroeconomics. And there were five goals, and hopefully by watching this video, you get these five goals. And goal number one is explain the differences between microeconomics and macroeconomics. Micro, small, macro, big. I think most of you already knew that. Number two, describe the hands-off and hands-on views on government policy and connect each to the fundamental macroeconomic questions. Number three, define three key measures of macroeconomic performance and identify good outcomes for each. Number four, identify five groups of macroeconomic players and their choices. And probably the one most important to me is you being able to apply these ideas to your own lives. It's really not worth learning something if you can't apply it to your life. So hopefully you can do that at the end. So question one is explain the differences between microeconomics and macroeconomics. And it's pretty straightforward. If you go to Google Classroom and see the assignment, it's a T-chart. This is pretty straightforward. But if you look at the microeconomic side, these are the topics of our earlier classes. A lot of this stuff you've already learned, so far in class. Whereas you look at the macro side, GDP, gross domestic product, inflation, employment, unemployment rates, aggregate demand, capacity of economy. This is new. So the focus of this lesson is on macro because we've already learned a lot of micro ideas so far. So, a couple big questions for you. Describe the hands-off and hands-on views on government policy and connect each to the fundamental macroeconomic questions. So, of course, what is the question? Well, let me give you this vocab before you are able to answer these questions. Some of these are new, some of these are old, but a business cycle, the ups and downs of overall economic activity, macroeconomics, analyzes the performance of the whole economy and global economy, the combined outcomes of all individual microeconomic choices. Microeconomics analyzes choices that individuals and households, individual businesses, and governments make, and how those choices interact in markets. The fallacy of composition. What is true for one is not true for all. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So again, if you say, well, it works for them, that doesn't mean it works for everybody. And then the paradox of thrift. The idea, while saving money is good for individuals, if everybody saved and spent less at the same time in the economy, it can hurt businesses because everybody's saving and they're not spending. Okay, so these ideas go to these questions. So here's the first question. Is the whole greater than the sum of the parts? And that's not an easy question to answer. Now, smart microeconomic choices by individuals may or may not add up to smart macroeconomic outcomes for the economy as a whole. If left alone, do markets quickly self-adjust? And hopefully you're starting to think about Keynes and Hayek and some of the people we've learned about prior because it lends itself to that. So we talked about this in class. For the sake of time, I'm not going to go into any great detail here. And then this question, government hands off or hands on? Okay, now it affects economics and it affects politics. Now there's essentially two groups of people. There's a yes camp and a no camp. And they disagree on the fallacy of composition. They disagree on the causes of business cycles and the risk of government failures versus market failure and the role of government. And they're on real different political sides. Now, if you are a quote unquote yes person, that idea is based off of an economist named J.B. Say and his famous law, supply creates its own demand. Now, the no people are basing their ideas on John Keynes, the founder of macroeconomics. I know we've touched upon this before. And on a very simple level, if you are a yes person, you're a say person, you are probably a Republican. Let the market correct itself. We don't want to have stimulus checks. We don't want to have bailouts. We want to let the economy kind of do its own thing, where the no people feel the government should take a more active role in the economy. I'll let you make your own choice. And even though it's not 100%, it's, you know, disproportionately yes people are Republicans and disproportionately no people are Democrats. Now, the other goal I wanted you to get is defining three key measures of macroeconomic performance and identify good outcomes for each. And on the assignment on Google Classroom, there's a question, what are the three measures and what's good? So the three measures These are gross domestic product or GDP, the value of all final products and services produced annually in a country, unemployment, not employed and actively seeking work, and inflation, rising average prices and falling value of money. So if an economy is doing well, this is what's good. So if you have 2 to 3% growth, that's good. Okay, so every year you got a little bit better. That's good. Now, in terms of unemployment, 4 to 5% is considered good. Now, I know a lot of you are saying, shouldn't everybody have a job? That's not the way the world works. There are just some people who aren't able to do that. So 4 to 5 is known as natural unemployment. You're not going to have unemployment at zero. That is not a realistic economic goal. But if you get 4 to 5, that means the economy is healthy. And then when you look at inflation, if you have 2% rise in prices, that's considered good, considering that the cost of living allowance should keep up with this. So if the GDP exceeds inflation, if COLA exceeds inflation, life is good. Now, if you look through time, there are good times and bad times, no shock there. Now, in terms of the fourth goal, the five groups of macroeconomic players and their choices, here are the players: consumers, businesses, government, banks, and the rest of the world. So if you look at consumers, if people are having money in their pocket and able to buy things and improve their homes and upgrade cars and that sort of thing, that's a sign things are going pretty well. Now, in terms of businesses, if businesses are hiring more people, if they're adding on, if they are adding, franchises, whatever the case may be, that's a sign of health. Now, the government, if the government is able to be functioning well and at a surplus or at least on budget, that's a good sign. Banks are willing to loan out more money for capital and investment because they're doing so well. They're more prone to take a risk on some people, and hopefully from those risks they get a reward. Then the rest of the world, if the rest of the world is doing well too, it connects to us. We're in a very connected economic world. So if things are going well in Europe and Japan and these other places in the world, that's probably a good sign as well. So these are kind of the players, and the choices that all five of these make determine good economy, bad economy on a whole, on a macro level. These are big things. These aren't micro, small things. And then the last goal I had was focusing on your future, living standards, voting, and macroeconomics. So macroeconomics affects your future. Okay. Now you can look at GDP for a country, but you can look at your own GDP, your salary, the money that you are bringing in as an adult. Obviously, if you have more money, you are going to be able to have more things. You're going to be able to live the way you want to live. Now, in terms of voting, how you view this issue, are you going to vote Democrat? Are you going to vote Republican? Are you going to support candidates that create a world that you are more agreeable with? And in our system, if more people get out and vote and put people in who are more agreeable to you, it's a better world. In terms of unemployment, knowing what skills you need to have to be employable and have job security, inflation, hopefully you're savvy enough to see this is not the time to buy. This is not the time to sell, and looking at those sorts of things. So these are the things that I hope you can take into your own life. You can take these big scale things and apply it on a very, very small scale, your own life. Okay. So the hope of today, I'm going to go full circle here. I hope you got these five things: differences between micro and macro, the two different political views, three measures of macroeconomic performance, what's good, five groups of macroeconomic players, and being able to think, how do these apply to your own life? Okay, so I appreciate you watching and hope everybody's doing well.